Hey, I'll I'll be attempting to teach you how to code in Python. Python's an interpreted programming language, so it's not that fast, but yeah, it's pretty good for beginners. Anyways, you can just go ahead and install Python yourself. Just Google it. Like, I'm not really going to go through that process. It's quite simple. So let's just get started now. So the first program, you'll want to create a new text file and give it any name you want. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to call mine program1.py. It's very important that you have the .py at the end. That's the extension that actually tells the operating system that this is a Python script. Once you've got that file created, you can edit it using whatever editor you want, any text editor. Just make sure it's not something like Word or anything. Like, I'm just going to use Kate. On Windows, it's on Linux, I guess you could just use idle, which comes with Python in general. This is Python 3, so yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to start off with a basic program, Hello World program, which you're probably familiar with if you've coded in other languages. So the print function, yeah, this is how you call a function, by the way. You type out the name of the function, print, then it's followed by parentheses, opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis. Now, between these, you can give the function what's called arguments, which is like inputs to the function. If you've done math, well, you probably have. You know, when you get f of x is equal to something, some function of x, x is the argument to f. Now the name of this function is print, and like x would actually just be some string over here, because print takes an argument, which is a string, something that it must output to the console. So we're just going to print hello world. Make sure that this is in quotes though, because if you don't put in quotes, then Python won't know that this is actually a string, and well, obviously it's not going to run, or it's going to give you errors. Make sure that's saved, and then we can just minimize this for now and just run this. So you can just open the command line, make sure you're in the same directory as this. So we'll just see if I list the files here. It says program1.py. So to run this, you'll just type Python followed by space and then the name of your program. So you can also use tab to complete the name while you're typing. If you've typed it out correctly, it'll just probably autocomplete for you. Or if there's multiple files with the same name that you've typed out so far, it'll just like list them all, and then you can just like choose one or carry on typing it out manually, whatever. Anyways, just hit enter and it'll run it. As you can see, it's printed hello world over here, so that's what we told it to do there. Yeah, so that's the first program, I guess. Just print with hello world in it, and that's all you really need for a simple program. And let's see, okay, let's close this program here. Let's make another one. Let's call it program 2. Actually, no, I'm just going to call this one variables, variables.py, since I want to explain variables now. So just open that with whatever text editor again, and let's just say, before I start, let's just say we want to store two numbers somewhere in memory, right? So we can store them in variables, and the variables can be any identifier which starts with an alpha. Well, it'll be a non-numeric character, like any alphabetical character, or there are some symbols like underscore which are allowed as the first character, but I'm just going to call this number 1. Okay, so number 1's the name of some variable, and we want to store a number in it. So you put an equal sign, and now let's say we want to say that is 10. So number 1 equals 10. The number 10 has been stored in a variable called number 1 up here. So now enter, and now you're on a new line. You can only really have one statement per line unless you put a semicolon here, and then you can just type out whatever afterwards and semicolon, but rather just go to the new line. It's much neater. So we can make another variable here called number 2 is equal to, I don't know, 13, and then we can even do math in here. So we can make a variable sum of numbers. I'm using camel case here, so the convention is to start off with the first word as lowercase, and then wherever you'd like have a space between the words, you should just uppercase each first letter of the following words, or the words that follow the first word over here. So you can't have spaces in your identifiers for your variables, so just use camel case to separate the words like that. And we can just say this is equal to, and then you can actually use your variables in arithmetic and stuff, like number 1 plus number 2. Well, number 2, yeah. So now what happens here is number 1, which is 10, will get added to number 2, which is 13, and then that'll store 23 in a variable called sum of numbers. And now let's say we want to print out the value of that, so we can say print sum of numbers. Now what will happen it'll just basically, when you run this program, it's just going to print out 26, which is the sum of these two numbers. So we could actually just put print number 1 plus number 2 instead of printing out this over here, sum of numbers, because it's the same thing. So you can have this, and you can even just have, you can add more statements. Well, let me put this here. If you separate your arguments with a comma to print, you can actually you can concatenate different strings together. So this is actually a number, so if we put a comma there, and then we can say sum of the two numbers is, and so okay, now we've got two numbers there, well, two arguments. Sum of the two numbers is, which is just a string. Now we've got a comma, so this, yeah, sum of numbers is our second argument to the print function. And when you give multiple arguments to the print function, it'll just join them together with spaces or whatever separator you define. I'll explain how you can choose what separator you want, but by default it's a space. So yeah, this will just have sum of the two numbers is, and then it's followed by space because of that comma over there. And then now actually the space that isn't the space I'm talking about. Like this comma is all that's necessary to separate your arguments. So this will have a space after is, even though I haven't put a space here. This is just in the actual code. So this default separator is a space. So it'll just say sum of the two numbers is, and then the sum of those two numbers. Let's just run that, or save first, and then this is program 2. So let's just let me just type it out. Python program, well, variable 2 actually, variables.py. So if you run that, press now, yeah, sum of the two numbers is 23. So let's just see, yeah, you can do that. And let me just demonstrate that you could actually just have number 1 plus number 2 over here as well. This would also work exactly the same way. Sum of the two numbers is 23. Now let me show you this. You can also comment stuff out if you put a hashtag in front of it. Basically, when you run the program, Python will just ignore any lines with a hashtag in front. You could just put a hashtag and type out whatever you want, like this is a comment, but it just comments out a single line. Now some languages actually have a multi-line comment, like slash star slash, and then you can have that on like multiple lines, but Python you can't really do that. Python, there is a trick where you can just use 3 quotes in a row, and then you can say all of this is a comment. It's actually like, it's a doc string, but if you really want to, you can use that if you want to comment out like a whole lot of code, and if it's on a whole lot of lines, instead of having to put a hashtag on each line. So I'm just going to remove this. So yeah, let's see what now. We can also use multiplication, subtraction, division. The symbols are as follows: plus. Wait, sorry, that's the wrong comment. Symbol. Plus is for addition. Minus is for subtraction. // is for division. If you use that, it'll actually return a floating point number, and you can round that off using math functions, whatever. A double slash, that'll actually do integer division, which it'll divide two numbers. Like let's say you have 11 and you say, let me actually write it like e.g. 11//2. So 11 divided by 2, but integer division by 2. That'll actually just give you 5, because 11 divided by 2 is 5.5, and integer division will just throw away the decimal. It'll throw away the whatever comes after the decimal point, and you're just left with 5 as an integer. And multiplication. So use an asterisk for multiplication, like 5 times 2 is equal to 10. And there's another operator you can use. Well, actually there's 2 more. Asterisk is for exponentiation, like let's say we want 5 squared, so use 5 ** 2, and that'll just be 5 squared, which is 25. And then the last arithmetic operator would be the modular operator, which is just a percentage sign. Actually, let me just zoom in a bit. Yeah, so that just basically returns the remainder after division. So let's say we had 13 mod 4, right? 13 mod 4 will divide 13 by 4, and then it'll just give you the remainder. So 13 divided by 4, it's 3, remainder 1. So the answer will just be 1, basically. So this is pretty useful when you have a loop and now you have some counter that keeps counting up, and you only want to you have some behavior that you want to happen every like n numbers, then you can just say mod n, and then you get a number from 0 to n minus 1. So let's say you use mod 4, this will always return some number between 0 and 4, exclusive of 4, so 0, 1, 2, or 3, and then you can check if that value is 0, or if it's 1, or if it's 2, or if it's 3, and have your own behavior for that. So in that way you can just like have some interesting logic. So let me just show another example. Well, not another example, let's show that with a print statement, because, well, that's the easiest way to show it. So let's just do this. So 5 squared, I'm just going to use that in the actual output, like the caret sign. This is not an operator, this is all in a string. Right? Yeah, oh, actually, let's just do this. So this actually won't evaluate if it's in a string, because well, it's a string. This is all just text as far as Python is concerned. It doesn't actually know that. Well, it won't actually evaluate this. So if we put equals, comma, now that's the first argument. Second argument will actually have the exact same thing there, but without the quotes. So this will actually get evaluated 5 squared 25, and now it'll just have 5 star star 2 equals space, and then the result of this would be 25. And let's just run that. See, the string part, which is 5 star star 2, actually you can have math expressions, you could have something that looks like Python code in there, even anything really. It won't get evaluated because it's surrounded by quotes. You could also use single quotes instead of double quotes. It doesn't really make a difference, but yeah, the result of 5 star star 2 or 5 exponent 2 is 25. So you can see this whole line, yeah, corresponds with that. And yeah, that's the print statement. Well, let me show you another very important function. Well, that's a print function, yeah. Let me show you how to convert from an integer or anything to a string. So, or actually first, let me just show you this. You can use concatenation with a plus, but if you just do this, like you want 5 star star 2 equals, and then now plus the result of this, like you want to just join strings basically. This right now isn't a string, and if we were to just run this, we'd get an error where it'll say unsupported operands for these types or whatever, like because it'll say you can't add a string and an integer, or yeah, an integer together. Let me just show you that now. See, you run that, you see trace back, whatever, line 18, print that, can only concatenate string, not int to string. So right now, since you've got a string on the left hand side, the plus is actually, it's not being used for the normal arithmetic, or for the normal addition operation. Now it's actually being overloaded to work with strings and just join strings together. Thing is, you can only concatenate 2 strings together. Right now, 5 star star 2 isn't actually a string, it's just an integer. So you can't put quotes around this now because, well, that would just say 5 star star 2 equals 5 star star 2. Oh, let's put the space here because the plus doesn't actually put the space where it just joins things straight. So 5 star star 2, to actually get this into a string format, we actually just say str, and we put that around whatever we want to convert to a string. And now this will join it without any errors. 5 star star 2 equals plus, and then now it'll evaluate what that is. That's 25, and then it'll make it into a string, and now we can just basically add strings, these 2 strings together, and that'll work just like how it worked early on with the comma. The comma doesn't need it to be a string. The comma, it'll just concatenate for you. And yeah, let's just run that, and you can see it's the same as earlier, but now this is only one argument. Like this whole expression in here, it'll join these 2 strings together, this string over here and this string over here, and now the resulting string will be passed as the single argument to print. So in this case, we're just using 1 argument to print instead of 2, and we get the same effect. Let me show you something else. In variables, we don't only have to have numbers, so I'll comment this out because we don't need that right now. So we can also store strings, we can store floats, we could store references to objects, we can you could hold nearly anything in variables actually. So let's just say we have something called name, make it equal to, now we can give it some string like name equals Bob, and we can just say print my name is, and then plus, and then we can just say plus name. Now name is already type string because you can see the quotes around here. If it weren't a string and it was something else, you'd probably have to use the string function around it. So you'd have string with parentheses, name, close parentheses, and then that would allow you to actually do this. Alternatively, you could just take away a space there, remove the plus, and just pass 2 arguments, but I'm just showing you that you can just use strings straight without having to use string around them. I mean, you could do that, but that'd be unnecessary. So this here will just say my name is Bob. My name's not actually Bob, but I'm just using that example. So if we just push enter now, see, it prints out my name is Bob. It's just concatenated these into one string, passed this as one argument to print. Print takes that, puts it into the console, and then your program exits. So that's how you can store strings and variables. You can print them out, and let's see. So another example. Suppose we wanted to suppose we had some number, I'm just going to call it string number, is equal to 5, and we wanted to add 1 to it. So we wanted to print out something where we get the result of that plus 1. So let's say we can say 5 plus 1 is equal to 5 plus 1, and then we'll print that. Oh yeah, we want the equal sign here. 5 plus 1 equals plus, and now we want to actually add 1 to the variable called string number, right? So we could just say, well, we couldn't do this string number plus 1, right? Because right here, string number is a string, and plus 1 is an integer, and you can't add two different types. And now you wouldn't want to do this, because now it'll actually it'll add two strings. You won't get an error, but it's not going to do what you want it to do. In this case, it'll join the 5 and the 1 together. I'll actually show you that right now. So let's run that again. 5 plus 1 equals 51. That's not what we want. We want 5 plus 1 to be equal to 6. So instead of converting the 1 to a string, which isn't what we want, we'll keep the 1 as an integer. String number it's a string. It's not a number right now as far as Python's concerned. So we'll make it into an integer. So if we type int and we wrap up string number with int, it'll actually convert this to an actual 5, the number 5. We'll add 1 to it, and now this will be 6. But now this whole result, I'm going to put this all in brackets here. This here is a number now, and on the left hand side here we can see we have a string. So remember, we can't actually add a number to a string. So what we'll have to do here is wrap this around with an str. You can actually nest functions or expressions inside of other functions like this. And we could even just put an int outside of that as well, and then another string, but that's unnecessary. This here is how we'd convert string number to an int. Well, we wouldn't convert it, but we'll convert it at this point here. It's not going to actually change the variable. Yeah, if we were to use it later, it'll still be a string later on in the code. Like, let's say we wanted to print string number plus 1 down here. This is still a string right now. It's just that it's, when you have int over here, it just returns actually it just returns a copy of this as a number. It doesn't actually affect the original value over here. So just keep that in mind. So this here would just have 5 plus an integer, well, the string 5 plus an integer 1, and this would cause an error. So just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to delete that. So this here will just, this will do what we want it to do. So let's run that, and we see we got 5 plus 1 is equal to 6, because this 5 plus 1 equals, there's a string before there, and then now this is a string 6 over there. Yeah, that's 6 over there, because it's the string 6 of the integer of string number plus 1. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that is how you can store strings. You can convert between strings and integers. There's also the float function, which you could use instead of int if you want to have floating point numbers. Floating points just non-integers like 2.5, 3.14159, whatever. So yeah, you can use that. And there's also other functions that aren't that you'll have to import to actually use. So let's say we wanted a random number. There's something you can import called random. It's a Python module. You just have to, in general, you should put your import statement at the top. To import some module, you just type import and follow that by space, and then the name of whatever you want to import. So I want to import random, and let's just keep it as that for now. To access stuff that's in random, the random module, you'll have to use random dot followed by whatever it is inside of that you want. So I'm going to I'm going to comment this out. Let's just print out random dot random, and let's see what that does. And now that you see here, this is a method of the random module, or a function called random, which we called here. You can see the parentheses here. If you don't have any arguments, just these parentheses are actually still necessary to call it. I mean, if you remove them, it's actually just going to print out a reference to that function in memory. Well, not exactly a reference, it'll say function or something. Let's show you what happens there. It'll say built-in method random of random object at that place in memory. So you'll actually want to call the function with the empty parentheses here after it, and that'll give you a random number between a random float between 0 and 1. So every time we run this, you'll see it'll actually give a random number. And I actually can't remember, is it ran int or random int? Let's just try ran int. Let's see if that, ran int between two things, so 1 and 20. Let's just quickly test that. No, not ran int. Is it rand int? I think rand int. Yeah. Forget these things sometimes. Rand int, maybe. And no. Okay. So sometimes you forget the name of something, right? So if we open up a Python shell, just type out Python. You can type out dir. Oh, wait, no, actually, let's import random. Don't forget to import anything you want to find the methods of. So let's import random. Now if we type dir, that's a function, and we put the actual just random, the module in here, push enter, it'll show us all the methods that it has. So let's just see what methods it has in here. Random, randint. Oh, it's because I used an uppercase I over here. Okay, sometimes some things don't follow the camel case convention, so you'll just have to figure it out like that. Sometimes we'll Google it anyway. So this should give us a random number from 1 to 20. So we can exit this Python shell here. Let's rerun the program, and now it gave us 10. We ran it 12, 19, 5, 12, 12, 14, 10, 10, 14, 15, 17. When's it going to give us something? Okay, there's something below there. 28, 12, 1. So you can see it's just given, it's every time we run it, it's going to give us some different value, some random value from 1 to 20, inclusive of both. And there's lots of Python modules you can, there's already a lot of Python modules you can use. You just have to import them. And another thing you can do is, instead of having to type out random dot something every time, you could just say import random as, let's import it as rd. So instead of typing out random dot something, we can just use rd dot whatever. So you can just let me comment. well, nah, let me just actually change this. So print rd.randint. So rd is just like a synonym for the word random now, and you can just use rd.that, and that should give us the same result. So still returning random number there. And if you really want to, you can just like take away the whole need of having to type out rd dot or random dot. You could just, instead of using this, you can say from random import randint. If you just want to import the randint method from random, now you can just say from random or whatever module you want import, and then the name of whatever method or function you want to actually import in here. So now we don't actually have to use this dot to access that method or function. We can just use it straight as if it were some other normal function, and that'll work. But let's say you want randint and you also want random and everything. You could just say import asterisk, and that'll just import everything from there. It's just that it's not really bad practice, but let's say you have some method and now you import everything from some other module, and now it just happens to have the same, one of their functions has the same name as one of your functions. It'll just there'll be conflicts, and yeah, you wouldn't want that. So rather just import only what you need in general, but you can just do this, and now that'll still work. If you just have an asterisk, that's a wildcard, and it'll just import everything. So if you run that, it still is working, and you can use random as well. So print random, and that'll work. There we go. Yeah, I think that's about it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and if you got any suggestions, just leave it in the comments. Thanks.